Hello, welcome everybody. It is Larissa, and I am here for our weekly Lunch and Learn. It is a beautiful day here in Toronto, and I am so excited about today's topic because this is a hot topic for so many people. Today, we are talking about procrastination, okay? And even just listening to that word, I'm sure for many of you, it has a lot of weight, right? A lot of times when you think or feel or hear procrastination, it's like, oh, it just gets so heavy. And so this is something a lot of people talk about, a lot of people seem to have problems with, and we're going to dive into what it really is, where to get started, and how to keep the flow if you're in the procrastination rut, if you're in that mode of procrastination. So we have had lots of requests from our community and also those registered for our upcoming Abundance Accelerator workshop for resources on this topic. And we didn't have a great one, so this is it. This is going to be phenomenal. So if you are a self-proclaimed procrastinator, if you are just not finding that you're getting to the things that you should be doing, today is for you. So I want to know, please tell me where you're coming in from. And if you're tuning in by replay, type in replay in the chat. And if it's your first time here, type in first time in the chat. Now, some of you know me, some of you don't. For our new members, I'm Larissa McCouch, Master Results Coach, trainer, truth seeker, and CEO of Abundance Academy. And we help entrepreneurs radically transform their life and business to create the time, the money, and the freedom that they dream of, that the freedom that they deserve and desire with ease, joy, and flow. And our company mission is to positively impact more than 1 billion people across the globe and bring a brighter, beautiful future for all. So last night, I had a call with a client. Okay, my intuition told me to reach out to her, and so I did. And we just had a phenomenal conversation. And she was procrastinating on a big project. She's building a new website, a new entire educational platform, and she just had the final touches to go. Now, she's been putting this project off for several months. Okay, for several months. She's like, I know what I need to do, I'm just not doing it. And she wasn't sure why. And by the end of our conversation, she was totally convinced a few minutes later that she was going to get her work done. And there was no question in her mind that she could get it done by the end of this weekend. Now, what she'd been doing and where she was stuck was she's like, I've spent so much time dreaming about it. I know what it's like. I can see the end result. I can feel it. I've replayed the scenario over and over again in my mind. I know exactly what it's going to be. But she just didn't have the last bit of action. Okay. And when we reframed it, sometimes when we look at things from one perspective, we get stuck on one train of thought. As soon as I reframed it and showed her that the time she had actually spent visualizing this project and imagining its final completion, those things were actually very productive actions, because had she done that project, I asked her, I'm like, had you done it a couple months ago, would it have happened like that? Would you know with the absolute certainty that what you have to do and how to do it? And she said no. So there is research that shows the power of visualization. When you have an outcome or a goal that you want with crystal clarity and you visualize the outcome, then it's almost like you actually train your mind to achieve it much faster. So there was a study done with basketball teams many years ago, and they had three separate groups. They had one group that would practice shooting the basketball and getting a hole in one. They had another group that was just visualizing. They just visualized getting the basket, and then they didn't do the actual physical practicing until later on when they did the test. And then they had another group that did both. And they discovered that the group that did the visualizing and the group that did the visualizing plus the practicing had very comparable results. The group that simply shot the basket, they didn't have the same level of results and the same level of success. And so really getting crystal clear. We talk a lot about clarity, getting crystal clear on your end result is actually so, so key. And that was what it was in this case with this client. And so for her, we recognized that. Okay. We raised our awareness. She saw it. And then she was able to look at it from a different perspective. She acknowledged where she was at. And then she knew with absolute certainty she could just get it done. She knew how much time she needed. She knew what steps she needed to take, and she scheduled it, and she had a move on. Yeah. So if you like that, that's amazing. Hello, Brooke. Nice to see you again. So if you guys are having problems with procrastination, or if you guys have any questions, I want you to feel free to pop them in the chat. I might be able to answer them I will be able to answer them if you actually post them, and I might answer them in what I already have. If not, I will make sure to answer them by the end of this talk. Okay. So what I want you to know is that not all procrastination is bad. Sometimes when we think procrastination, right, we think procrastination is like, oh, procrastination, it's so heavy, it's so difficult, it's so hard, it holds this weight. A lot of times there are guilty feelings associated with procrastination, or shame. Those are really, really negative emotions. And as soon as you link those emotions to the actual procrastination, you're pulling yourself down and building a spiral of more and more and more procrastination. And it just becomes a perpetual doom cycle. It just goes down in the wrong direction. So what's really, really key is to know whether or not you even need to procrastinate, and give yourself some slack, because the fact is you won't have time to do everything. You don't want to do everything. And there are just some things you are not qualified to do. And a lot of times when things are in those categories where you don't want to do it, where you're not qualified to do it, or you just plain don't have time to do it and you've overcommitted, you shouldn't do it. Okay. You really shouldn't do it. Okay. So there's a lot of resources out there in order for that to happen. So procrastination itself, procrastination is the act of postponing or delaying something. And when you're in procrastination mode, I want you to do, there are 3 key things that you want to do in order to move and flip it. And the very first thing you want to do is stop. Okay. When you're in procrastination mode and you're just like roaming from the TV to the kitchen, to the bathroom, to the laundry room, to your social media account, and all of a sudden nothing gets done in the day, you need to stop. Okay. It's almost like when you're in a fire drill at school, or if there's a fire in the house, they say stop, drop, roll. You got to just stop immediately and freeze yourself. And when you do that, take a few breaths. Often when you're in procrastination mode, your mind is spinning and you're spending more time thinking about the problem than you would actually need in order to just get the problem dealt with. So you need to stop and take a few breaths, because that's going to help clear your mind. You want to give yourself space. Go for a walk. Do something physical. Clear your head. Give yourself time to think. Really do something not involving the phone, okay, not involving the phone, just something physical. Go work out that can give you the space to let your mind wander in the way it needs. Okay. So another thing with this is when you stop, you want to just forgive yourself for procrastinating. You can't change your yesterday. All you can do is make the most of today. And honestly, when you forgive yourself, the practice of forgiveness, that's going to reduce the guilt and all of these negative emotions that you're holding on to, and literally free yourself from this self-imposed trap. Forgiveness is such a key activity. Gratitude for what is good is such a key activity to move you in a better direction. You also, within this stop section, you want to recognize if you are doing the behavior of procrastination or if you're taking on the identity of procrastination. Okay, so are you doing the behavior of procrastination or the identity? So what do I mean by that? Identity is I am a procrastinator. I got on the call with this client and every time we talk, I'm a procrastinator. I always procrastinate. This is what I do. She has embodied that identity. And I said, no, stop, because you're not a procrastinator. We all do the behavior of procrastination. That doesn't make us procrastinators. So as soon as we take on an identity, that holds so much more weight. And it is a negative thing. So you never want to identify yourself as something you don't want to be. Okay, so let me know in the chat, are you identifying yourself as a procrastinator, or do you just do the behavior of procrastination? I'd be really interested to know about that. Okay, so do you say I am a procrastinator, or do you just say I am procrastinating? Okay, I am just not doing the activity. So making sure that you focus on the activity and take it away from your image of yourself. You also want to remember and recognize that you actually don't have to be in a good mood or in any positive mood to do a certain task. So there are times where you will just want to and need to ignore how you feel and get started, because instead of focusing on the feelings, you could just focus on the next step and the next step and the next step and the next step. And all of a sudden, these steps are going to build momentum for you. And by the time you start building momentum, you're actually going to want to do it, and you will actually be in a great mood. So those are some things in the stop section. You want to stop, you want to breathe, you want to assess, give yourself some space, forgive yourself, and realize, hey, maybe I'm not in the right mood. I'm going to do it anyway. Okay. Step 2, if you have a lot of things that you're procrastinating on, okay? If it's just one thing, you can go off and do it. Step 2 is if you have a lot of things you're procrastinating on and you're spinning your wheels, or you're maybe dabbling in one area, dabbling in another, jumping from one thing to another. This has been very close to my heart this week. So I'm like, oh, what a great reminder for myself, because even I needed this reminder. We scheduled this talk and I was like, oh my, there are a few things that we've got half finished that are going to get done today. Okay. So this is beautiful timing for myself and my team as well. So step 2 is prioritize. What's actually important? What's actually important? So you want to look at the things that you have committed to doing and that you're doing, the activities that you're doing, that you're procrastinating on, and look at whether they're actually necessary for you to do them. Or perhaps you can automate them, you can delete them, or just delegate them to someone else. Just get them away from your list. And another way to prioritize, there's something called the Eisenhower Matrix. And this is something that Stephen Covey popularized in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's where you take a blank sheet of paper. My son's drawn a house on this one. So you take a blank sheet of paper and divide it in 4. Okay, you just take a blank sheet of paper, divide it in 4. And in this quadrant, you write what's urgent and important. Okay, so urgent and important. Then in this quadrant, this is where you write what's important and not urgent. In the bottom quadrant, you write all of the things that are urgent and not important. And in the 4th quadrant, you write what's not urgent. I hope you guys can read this. And not important. So urgent and important are things like perhaps paying certain bills, or if you have a big deadline at work that is dependent on other people or a certain type of revenue coming in. If your child is sick, or you're sick, you want to take care of that. These are urgent and important things. This is often when you're putting out fires. This 2nd quadrant, when it's not urgent and when it is urgent and not important, this is what we refer to as the zone. This is when you're in your element, you are in your prime. And this is where you actually want to spend most of your time. Okay, this is when you are in the flow. This is when you are at your best. So you want to get rid of all these things as fast as you can and spend as much of your time as you can here. Okay, the urgent and not important. This is phone calls you have to get back to, commitments you've made without thinking about them. These are things that aren't really going to move you to your goal, but you've said, yes, let me do another event. Let me go do another activity with people that I maybe don't even want to do. So what is urgent and not important? It might have a deadline and it might be soon, but it's not really important to you or to your goal or to the life or to the outcome that you're desiring. Okay, and then 4th quadrant is not urgent and not important. This is like, let's scroll social media. Let's just watch TV to decompress, right? Watching TV with your family and having an intentional movie night with family time could be a highly productive activity. However, if you're just doing it by default, that's not a very good use of your time. So sometimes the same activities might actually be in different quadrants depending on your intention. So this is a really powerful tool. If you Google the Covey quadrants, Stephen Covey again popularized it, and you can get that. And we can also get a resource out to you if you're interested in learning more about that. Okay, so ultimately, most people spend their time in 3 and 4, procrastinating on a lot of these things. And this is where you get caught up when you're in procrastination. This is what you overcommit to when you're procrastinating. You want to spend your time up here, and especially in that second quadrant. So step 2 is about prioritizing. So write a list, put the things in the buckets, and then decide out of the urgent and important things and out of the not urgent and the very urgent and not important things, which do I have to do? Which am I the only one that can, which activities am I the only one that can do, right? Which ones must I do and nobody else can? If there's something other people can do, invite them to do it, okay? So that is such an important thing, because you don't have to do everything on your list. You don't have to do all of your commitments initially. And you can ask for help, right? So often we don't ask for help, and we should, okay? So point number 2 is prioritize. Decide what's most important and ask for help when you need it. Okay, step 3 is decide and then take immediate action. Just make a decision and then back it by action. Make a decision and back it by action. Pick one thing on the list and get going. Because when you take the first step, you're going to take the next step and the next step, and then you're going to get into that cycle of momentum. And you want the momentum to continue upwards. All you need to do to start building momentum is take the first step and then the next one, and then all of a sudden you're rolling. And on the flip side, if you stop and you stop and you stop, it just gets harder and harder to move. So important to take that first step. So you make a decision, even if it's not the perfect thing. Pick something easy, pick something small off your list that you can start with. Build the success muscle and just get going with it, okay? So one of the things that might help with you as well, if you do need breaks, if you find that you can't focus for long periods of time, there's something called the Pomodoro technique. And basically, it's where you intensely focus for 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break, because research shows you actually don't have the brain capacity to focus much beyond that. So that's a beautiful technique. If you could say, okay, maybe I can't commit for an hour or 2 or 3, but I can focus all of my attention for 25 minutes. You put a timer on and you go, and you don't look at anything. Phone is on airplane mode. You do whatever one task you're doing and then complete it. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing to really help with that immediate action and making progress in that time. So 3 steps, just to recap. The first is stop. When you're in procrastination mode, you got to stop, you got to breathe, you got to give yourself space so you can reassess where you're at, how you're looking at the situation, and really decide, like, is this actually a problem? Do I even need to do this? And look at whether you're beating yourself up over it or you're looking at the activity. Okay, so you always want to take the emphasis off yourself and onto the activity. Step 2 is prioritizing, really making sure it's actually important what you're committing to. And you use those Covey quadrants or the Eisenhower Matrix, whichever you prefer, then to prioritize and stay in the first and second section. So you want to clear that first section as quickly as possible so you can get into the second one. And then step 3 is decide and take immediate action. Okay, just make a decision. You literally just have to pick something and get going, even if it's not perfect. Remember, you don't have to be in a good mood to do a task. You just need to get going. And often the feelings of success and the good feelings are going to come afterwards. Okay, 9 out of 10 times I start something and I might not be in the mood, and by the end I'm like, oh my God, I'm having so much fun. Okay, so 3 simple steps. Now, Michael has a question. How do you know the difference between procrastinating and futility? I find sometimes I say I'm procrastinating, but it's really me clinging to often imaginary relationships that are never going to work out. and I don't want to do things that add to the chaos in those relationships. Okay, let me just read that again. So you found that sometimes you say you're procrastinating, but you're clinging to imagination. They're never going to work out and don't want to add to the chaos. So Michael, maybe we could take this offline just to get more clarity, because I think there's some more questions I do want to ask you. But ultimately, I would say this is a big part of you tuning into your intuition, right? We all have an intuitive faculty. It's one of our superpowers, one of our God-given gifts that we were given to be able to decide which way to go. And our intuition is actually perfect. It's that initial hit. And then everything else is us justifying and having an inner conversation with ourselves. And so when you really look at what your intuition is saying and not all of the other stories, right? Story is what is the expanded version. Intuition is that initial hit. There's going to be a difference. Also, you want to really look at the relationships, right? If you have chaos in your relationships, is that something you even want to attract, right? So what are you procrastinating on in terms of these relationships? Okay. And what do you specifically want to attract? And if the relationships you're in, you're putting off leaving, right? Perhaps it sounds like you're looking to avoid relationships or exit relationships that aren't good for you because they have chaos. Is chaos something you even want to attract? Does that align with your future self and your future vision? Because if it doesn't, then that would be a really good indication as to what you want to do, right? You want to take action on things that do align with what's in your heart, with what's in your actual vision of your future self, or you're going to simply get the same results. So if you actually want to make a change, this is a good opportunity to take a look and make that decision, right? Only you can answer that, and only you can answer what the right thing is to do. But you want to take a really good hard look at what your standards are and what the chaos is in these relationships. Is it you just bringing chaos from your mind into the relationships? Or is there something else beyond your actual ability to control the circumstance? And if it's beyond your ability, you've got to decide, do I actually want this? Do I need this? Is it serving me in my life? And sometimes it is difficult to leave relationships or to spend less time in certain relationships. Okay. So I hope that helps, Michael. So if you want to continue this conversation, let me know and we can certainly do that. But I think that's what you were talking about, and that in terms of relationships. So I would love to invite you guys to a amazing event. It is starting on October 18th. And we're hosting a 5-day Abundance Accelerator workshop. It's going to be right in this Facebook community, and it's going to be absolutely free. We are going to look at you unlocking your possibilities and clearing your path, clearing anything in your way of your dreams and desires, eliminating any limiting beliefs you guys have. This is something that people have been asking for. Kelsey saw the worksheet. She is just like, oh my God, the limiting belief section looks so good. She's so excited about it. So workbook is going to be hot off the press soon. So that will be coming to you. And we're going to show you how to uncover your abundance blueprint in 5 minutes or less. I'm going to share 10 tools that you want to master to boost your income, to boost the impact that you desire in your life, so you can have a life and a business that you truly want and love. So workshop is absolutely free, which is phenomenal. We want to gift this to our community because especially in these times, there is nothing more powerful than getting this in check. And the thinking that we have is ultimately what's going to lead us to our abundance, to living a full and thriving life, to living that rich and fulfilling life, and having the business that you truly want and love. So there is a link in the comments. So there should be a link in the comments shortly. There are links and registration links all over here, or you could even just post a comment that says, I want to register, and we will make sure to get that to you. Okay. So join us for the Abundance Accelerator workshop. Join us today. We are starting pre-events very, very soon. And you have yourself a beautiful and wonderful, wonderful day. And I will see you guys again next week. Bye for now.